So tell us about your trip to La La Land.
Yeah, last weekend I left for a long Memorial Day weekend, and my girlfriend and we left last Wednesday, and Thursday we're at Joshua Tree National Park, a couple hours east of LA, desert, those Joshua trees or something else, and just
Mm-hmm.
the open, bright sun, drink lots of water. But it is
Okay.
mm, there's a magnificence to it, to such a setting. A desolation which has its own, I don't know, moving qualities to it. Uh, I was going to say earthy, but that seems a silly adjective. Anyway, then the next day, next couple days, it was seeing a friend and him showing me around, like the going up the coast and um, Santa Monica and towards towards Santa Barbara up north, Malibu, and then we went and stayed north of LA a couple of hours, and then Sunday. So now we're Sunday. We drive back into the city, and I have an appointment with a woman named Suzette Shaw, who is a former. She herself was homeless, and now she has a publicly funded studio in Skid Row, the neighborhood. Skid Row is a neighborhood. It's not just a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are several stretches with lots of tents and homeless people, it's actually a whole neighborhood, 50 square blocks. And there's a big history to it of whether it's hobos, whether it's different immigrant groups. And now it's what it is today. And we'll be making a video of it based off of this tour that I took with Suzette. And I just want to show a couple clips from it for viewers, for you, Paul, to sort of describe what it was like there,
Mm-hmm.
which, coming from me, who's covered the topic, who did a documentary about a homeless camp that was dense and, a lot of people, 300 people there, I was still blown away by this, because there's a lot of people and a lot of struggle. And it wasn't just poverty, all right? It was people like pointing nowhere and saying things you couldn't understand
Like
and
schizophrenia
wandering in
type? You mean just kind of like schizophrenia or kind of just that kind of mental issue? Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And people I worried about, going by on a bike, that they would just nab my camera, because why the heck not, right? I mean, people screaming and worrying that they were screaming at us. Weren't sure if they were screaming at me or the other guy across the street that was screaming too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty on edge. Suzette, she really wasn't, but she said something during the tour. She says, I feel like I have a protection over me. And I don't know, more
Mm-hmm.
power to her. I
Yeah.
didn't feel that personally. So I was, and my girlfriend Casey was there, and she had another camera and I had one. And so we ended up getting a pretty good shoot out of the deal. But yeah, it's just, you don't know, like you just, and it's not just one camp. It's over stretches of blocks. So when you're in it, you're kind of in it,
Yeah.
and you can't just like leave in like 2 minutes. You
Was
got to
it, did it
walk a little
feel
ways.
did it feel kind of lawless? Was there any sort of police or were there any sort of
Oh,
issues?
well, the irony is that it's next to a police precinct and a fire.
Hmm.
What do they call that? A fire hall?
Station.
Fire station. Thank you.
Department, fire station? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the buildings are all graffitied, and their tents, their fortifications, like wood pallets around their tents. They're in there for the long haul. They're hunkered down. Um, so let me just show you a couple of quick videos here. I'll share my
Yeah.
screen. Oh, you need to allow me to share.
Whoops.
So I'll just play from here. We won't play the whole thing. It's several minutes, but you'll see obviously in the background we're starting to get into the thick of it. So this is when we're starting to get into the thick of things. And
Is this
I don't
Suzette?
remember. This is Suzette.
Suzette, okay.
Yep. So here we go. By the way, can you hear it?
Turn it up a little bit if you can.
I feel like I have protection on me.
I see.
And again, I don't live out here on the streets. And, you know, oftentimes people say to me, it's like, wow, you walk so fast. How you doing, sis? They say, you walk so fast, because when I walk.
Is the video jittery to you?
A to Z, unless.
What's that?
Is the video jittery?
Yeah, that's me. I'm walking and recording, so it's not.
No, but it's not shaky. It's kind of glitchy. Is it doing that on yours?
Oh, that's too bad. It's coming through that way. No, it looks smooth on my end. Is it?
It could be my connection, but
if it's unwatchable, we can always just fast forward to different scenes like this, and then you'll get an idea. You know.
Yeah, I think just fine. Yeah.
Okay. And you know, people are there. You know, they're doing their thing. They may go to the bathroom. You see that dude back there.
Mm-hmm. What is the bathroom situation? Do you know?
They have a couple of public restrooms that they put in there. This actually was the worst of it. Straight ahead here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a good shot. Oh, I think it comes later. That's back. Yeah, that guy's just not well. He's not well. There's a guy back there in a wheelchair. See that?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's what I like to call the underclass.
I don't even think they almost are kind of I mean, I guess underclass makes sense, but it's almost like they're just kind of the forgotten. They're just the whatever.
Yeah, almost lower. Yeah, the underclass might have work. Like, I don't know what the exact definition of underclass is. I read it in a book once about England, where these were people who had a tendency to be addicts, but they still had homes. They still had, it was a highly dysfunctional, it might be what we call the inner city here, or a real rough trailer park or something like that. But this is almost, yeah, you're almost right. It's almost lower than the underclass. But this woman, I remember, she was the one who would just point.
Mm-hmm.
She would just point and talk, and there was nothing. Like, she's the kind of person that if you talk to her, she'd look right through you.
Yeah.
Or something. Like, she was so gone.
Serious mental issues, and
Yeah.
probably compounded by drugs, and who knows what, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know, and there's no one there to help, and I shouldn't say there's no one there to help. It's just that there's such a bind of how to approach this issue. There's such a bind where if, say, someone like a police officer went there to take her away to somewhere that they thought was safer, then people would be there to say, "What are you doing arresting her?" You know what I mean?
No,
so there's a bind where the city's in a bind. I kind of feel for anyone with authority, because if they don't do anything, it's awful. And if they do something, quote unquote, do something where they say, you know, put these people in a place that's better, well, then you're forcing them off the street, and then now you're a bully, now you're cruel. So they leave them. And there's efforts to find them housing and stuff, but until then they leave them right there. And it's a real crazy place that these cities are in. And it's a real ideological bind that cities are in regarding I think crime too, in general, where they don't want to crack down because it's mean and cruel. So they lay off, and then things are bad. It's not easy. It's a rock and a hard place, I guess. But I'm going to play from here, and you tell me if it's still jittery. Just give me a thumbs down or a thumbs up so I can see you.
The temperance of trying to, people getting in line to get food over here.
Yeah, it's like that. It's jittery. Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably just our internet connection is somehow just not able to.
I think it probably is. What was weird was seeing nice cars drive through, like a BMW or something.
Any Lamborghini come through?
No sweet blue Lamborghinis. You see her pointing back there, that lady in denim. I think this was a bit behind Suzette here was I think it was a mission, which when she says that, I think she means a place people can go in and get food, maybe have a shelter at night. Yeah, so that was one of the worst. She actually offered to keep walking down this street, and I says, "No, I think I got it."
Yeah.
I was genuinely afraid.
Yeah, because when you're dealing with people who, have just mental issues, it's not really, you don't know what you're going to get. And you can't really
Yeah. This was actually a freeze frame I took and put it on Facebook. Yeah. I mean, people just they just own the streets. They just, the old stereotype of the shopping cart is alive and well there. Garbage all over. And get this, at one point when we were walking through this very spot, she said something like, "Oh, it's quiet today."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you kidding me? What's it normally like?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the video you're planning to make, put together, what is going to kind of be the, okay, what's going to be not the point of it, but what's kind of why can I go with this?
That guy was screaming at us, or he was screaming and getting closer. We didn't know if it was to us or if it was to another guy across the street, but that's the kind of stuff that unsettles you, because if he just comes running at us, like, what do you do? Yeah, you're kind of helpless in a way, because if you fight back, you lose, and if you don't fight, you lose. You got to just be a fly on the wall as much as possible, and with a camera,
two cameras,
with two cameras, and Suzette, being there with Suzette is what allowed us to do it at all. Without her, this wouldn't have happened. It would have just, I never would have gotten that far in. I would have been too nervous about doing so. What this video is going to do, it's not just going to be our tour through Skid Row and Suzette's commentary. It'll be some of that, but then I guess just the base from which I'm going to talk about a little bit of the history of Skid Row. And then also there's one point where we encounter a restaurant, and it's got outdoor seating, and across the sidewalk seating across the street are homeless people.
Wow. What kind of restaurant was it?
It was a decent little restaurant. It was on the edge of Skid Row. It looked like Skid Row had grown maybe into that area or something. Or I should say the homelessness had grown into that area. So I asked a guy leaving, him and his lady leaving, and he was willing to go on camera. I said, "Dude, what's it like eating across the highway across the street from those tents?" And he's just like, "I know."
Yeah.
I know. It's sad, but honestly, the sad truth is that I'm used to it. I vote for these people and they don't do anything, so he's frustrated. And,
yeah.
He's from Illinois. He's actually a Midwesterner too. And anyway, so I get that side of things, and his 2 cents, the footage, some of Suzette's commentary, and then my own little bit on the history of it, like how did it get here, and then my takeaway, which is basically that LA is doing what it can to accommodate the homeless there, right? So providing cleaning services, providing bathrooms, right? But there's no reduction of the issue. And that's just where it stands.
It's kind of reminds me, it reminds me of kind of the clean needle, like clean needles for drug addicts. Like, well, you have drug addicts who are going to do the drugs with dirty needles, and maybe you spread AIDS or what's the Hep C, that kind of stuff. So then the government decides, well, if they're going to do the drugs, let's at least supply clean needles. It's stopping a worse problem, but it's also kind of just enabling. What do you do?
That's the philosophical issue. And the problem with there's nothing wrong with that philosophy, I don't think, inherently. Like, there's nothing evil about it. It isn't like wrong or right or whatever. It's good people are going to disagree. Some people will see the enabling aspects of it. Some people will see the helpful aspects of it, and that's totally fine. In fact, it's needed. The problem is that all these cities are so one-sided, right? There is no one there to say you're enabling it. Okay, they would say there are, but there really isn't any strong conservatives on any of these city councils. No, in fact, there's probably no conservative, right? anyone who would identify as conservative. They're all far from conservative. It's like liberals and socialists and green people. It's like, so they're always favoring more tolerance, more provisions, and there's never any like, look, we got to do something.
So let me ask this, because I think that if you look at like the biggest cities, most of the biggest cities are kind of liberal cities. They're run by the Democrats, and especially California. I mean, I lived in San Diego 2 different times, about 10 years apart. First time, I don't remember a whole lot of homelessness. It was just, I mean, it sure was there, but it wasn't as in your face as it is now. Same thing with LA. There's always been homeless people, but now it's on another level. What I want to know is, what is the counter? Like if Ronald Reagan got elected, came from the grave and what is the Republican solution to this?
I don't know if a Republican solution would work, because it would work in a small town. It would work if the problem was small, but once the problem is this big, you're never going to get a pure Republican answer that's going to, I think, be practical, because you can't just arrest them all or kick them all out. But I think in a bigger city that compromises conservative and liberal principles is when you do get some results. That's what I've observed. So Houston is the one example I always like to give, because they actually, Salt Lake was the original housing first, or one of the original housing first. That's like the one that's always talked about, where I don't know the makeup of the city, but I'm guessing it's more conservative. And they had a small homeless problem. Maybe by their standards it wasn't small, but by these big city standards it was small. And they just said, why don't we just house them all? And if you come up with a housing first solution, or a solution that offers a sudden jump in help in what you're offering, you can get ahead of the problem that way. Like, here's the problem, you can kind of get ahead of it. But if you're a city like LA and you offer more, it just sort of pushes the problem and makes it worse and worse once you get in that pattern. So
and the numbers, when you have a city that's got 250,000, I don't know, then you have a certain percentage of that population is going to be homeless. You have a city of 2 million or whatever, LA 5, I don't even know. I mean, probably way off, but it's just the percentage is just going to be bigger. I mean, not the percentage, but the total people are going to be bigger, because it's just same percentage, just more people to.
Correct. Yeah. There's and there's cultural things. I mean, LA has always been a home of a lot of folks that they've always had this neighborhood of if not homeless, then people who would be drinking in public, and hobo culture, and I don't know, maybe other examples of margins of society, we might just say. But what Houston did was they said, okay, we're going to help them, but we're going to do it in maybe a Texas kind of way, where we're going to give them, they built dormitories basically. And we're going to give you a place to stay, but we're going to make you go there.
Okay.
Right. So we're going to offer you something, right? Maybe the more liberal side of things, but you're going to go there.
Okay. So that's
right. And in fact, I remember interviewing the lady there who was the head of the Coalition for the Homeless. And she said, if you want to camp, go do it in the country. Not in Houston. I remember her saying that, like, so she took a tough stance, but they also did it after offering them options.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that to me, that seems reasonable.
Yeah. God dang, this internet is kind of just bouncing all over the place. Well, I'm looking forward to hold on a second. Okay. Sorry, I'm checking something out. We're good on the last thing. I'm looking forward to hearing what just how you piece it all together, because this is something that's been a passion of yours for a long time. And now, you've gone to kind of the, for lack of a better term, the mecca of where this issue is in America. And, you kind of covered it, or you've seen it in a lot of different angles. So this will be interesting.